lesson that you deal with for finance, because from now on, everything that you will do to do with compound interest, you should use the graphics calculator. So there is a link here. If you don't have a hand graphics calculator, you can get away with this for now, but for the actual test, you must have a hand one. So I've got 4 of them. The exam, the school has a supply, but if you don't have them, I can't buy one for you. So use the Sage Calc that I've linked. I better not show those grades, shouldn't I? How do I close that? There we go. I closed it without showing anyone. All right. Compound interest using TVM solver. So we're going to do this using notes on the Mac. I'm not going to be writing, so that might be good for you because my writing sometimes get sketchy when I'm walking around. I showed you the compound interest formula last lesson. It's useful to know how compound interest works and how to use the formula because it explains how inflation works. But at this level, you can use an app on your calculator to deal with any compound interest question. This application is known as TVM Solver. So as soon as you see anything to do with compound interest for the rest of the year, please use TVM Solver. So the first notes I need you to get is how do you access TVM Solver? Let me demonstrate it to you on the calculator. You have an Apps button, Apps, select one, Finance, Enter, select one, TVM Solver. Does anyone this year have a non-TI calculator? Last year I had a couple of Casios. If all you're using is Texas Instruments, I only have to do one set of instructions. So can you please get how to access TVM Solver? Remind you again, Apps, Finance, Enter, TVM Solver, Enter. Now, because you're in year 12, I better show you the in and outs of using the calculator. It's not like iOS, where when you open it, what does your phone default to when you open iOS? What is the first thing you see? Do you not know how to use your device? You see the home screen. You can see all the apps. When you turn on the calculator, it opens straight to the Just Calculator app. Okay? The default on the TI-80, the TI whatever calculator is just using the normal calculator. You access apps but from the calculator. So how do we access the TVM Solver app? You click on Apps, click on Finance, TVM. Right? If you ever accidentally press something that I haven't taught you about or you don't know, like what the hell is that? Okay? Can you see how there's quit in blue over the mode button? Can you see that or not? Yep. That's how you quit. That's like your home button. It quits out to the calculator. Right? Why do you need to know that? Because if you're using the hand calculator, if you went here and then you did the classic turn it off and turn it on again, it's probably going to go back to that same screen, so that won't help you. If you're in somewhere where you don't think is right, second, quit, then it goes back to the normal calculator, okay? All right, so hopefully in that time you've been able to tell yourself how to access TVM Solver. One more time, Apps, Finance, TVM Solver. All right, this is now the rest of the lesson is how to use TVM Solver. Can you see when you open TVM Solver, do you see a screen like I've described below that? Is that what it looks like? NIPV, PMT, FV, PY, CY, PMT, N, begin. This needs to go on your cheat sheet. N represents the total number of periods. If PY and CY are different, then it's based on whatever PY is. That'll become clear what that means when you start doing exercises. I is the interest rate as a percentage. You don't need to convert. P is the principal or present value. PMT is the payments each period. You would have left that alone in year 11. Year 12, we hammer that. FV is the final or future value. PY, number of payments per year. CY, number of compounding periods per year. Someone at SACE decided that you will always leave PMT on end. It does make a difference. There's a couple of dollars, but you'll be wrong if you accidentally put it on begin. Okay? So if, for our purposes at year 12, can you see our end is in black on the calculator? That's how we're going to use it. Okay? Because someone at SACE has decided that. It's in your subject outline. So can you get that in pink that I've highlighted, what all of those variables mean? Then I will show you how to use this app. Also, if you did year 11 general maths, you would have said that PY and CY always remain the same. In SACE has also said for your exam and your tests that these should be the same, but they don't have, in real life, they don't have to be the same. Okay? In real life, banks compound monthly. You don't have to pay the bank monthly. So in your DI, PY and CY could be different. They should be different. Okay? Another minute, can you get what the TVM variables mean? And then I'll show you how to use it. How do we use TVM Solver? Well, you can sort of guess it from what the app looks like. It wants information. Give it all the information it needs except one thing. And then you ask it to find the one thing left over. Okay? So how do you use TVM Solver? Enter all the known information from the question into the correct variable. How do I know that? It's according to this. I told you what the variable stood for. Okay? So you put the known info into the correct variables, but please note PV, PMT, and FV are going to be positive or negative depending on the direction the money goes. So if I was writing this, I'd literally draw a stick figure of you. But if the money is leaving you, if you're putting it in the bank, then PV, PMT, FV, they have to be negative. If the money is coming to you, then those numbers will be positive. There's an extra trick to it. You can't make a number negative by pressing the take sign here. You make things negative in TVM Solver. Can you see the brackets with a little subtraction in the bottom? That's how you make them negative. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of minutes. Can you get that section down? That's all I've explained so far. So when you use TVM Solver, you're pretending to be you. If money goes away from you, yes. So that if the question said, oh, dude invested $1,000, it's in your pocket right now. You're investing it in the bank. So PV would be minus 1,000 because you put it away. FV is going to be positive because it's going to come back to you a little bigger. All right? If that's a little unclear, you get when you grind them out, then you'll get the hang of the positive and negative. Eh? Get that little pink, please. All right, so basically once you've entered all the variables, you highlight the variable you want to find by using these arrow buttons. And then can you see above the enter button, can you see a little green solve there? Yep. So how do I access that function? You press alpha and you press enter to solve it. That will find the last remaining thing that you don't know, okay? How do I show working out with TVM solver? You just show this. You show this and you put a star next to the thing you were trying to find. So if the question asked you to find what are the payments on the loan, you would write out all of this and you'd put a star next to PMT, for example. I've only ever had one kid that insisted on not showing working out, and that's cool because for half the test he got the right answer. But these questions are worth 4. So if your only mistake was you told me there was 26 months in a year, so PY and CY were 26, but you put everything else incorrectly, you might get 2 out of 4. But if the only thing you wrote was the wrong answer, what am I going to give you credit for? You were just wrong, right? So it's up to you. Sacer's told me that if you get the right answer, you'll get full marks. We can write a little code that says no calculations shown, right? But most of you are not at that level of being that risk, okay? You need all the credit you can get, right? So that's what the working out is going to be. Can you please make sure that you have 2? How do you solve for the thing? You press alpha enter. And how do you show working out? Show what you put into TVM solver, put a star next to it. Give you a minute for that stuff. Those steps 2 and 3. Now this next thing is a double up. I gave you this last lesson, but just in case and also for the purpose of the video, TVM solver doesn't tell you the interest earned. You need to use a formula to find the interest earned. So you got that last lesson. If you don't, get it now. But otherwise, we will demonstrate how Julia gets her money from this investment. If you don't have your calculator out already, that might be useful to do so you can follow along. All right, Julia invests $23,000 in an account paying 3.45% per annum, compounding quarterly. This is the order that you should approach TVM solver. You don't start from the top. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to do N straight away. Is there any question about what the rate is? So you go to I and you type 3.45. See how I haven't changed it to a decimal? It's just the rate. PV. How much is Julia investing? Yeah.
I want to put down negative 23.
Why?
Because money goes from you to the bank.
Good. She's putting it in the bank for a while. Okay, so how do I make it negative? The little bracket one, negative 23,000. Does it say anything about her making regular payments? She's just putting 23,000 in there for 6 years. Okay, so PMT remains at 0. PY and CY, what does the question say that is compounding? How often? Yeah?
Quarterly, so 4 times.
4. Please notice the calculator, when I put PY in as 4, the calculator will try to make them the same. I'll press enter, look. I'm not going to enter CY. When I press enter, see how it made CY the same too? Be careful with that. In your exam, in your test, they'll generally be the same. But in your DR, they won't be the same. Because you don't have to pay the bank only as often as it compounds. That's not realistic. Someone has decided that, okay? So if it doesn't say payments here, we keep them the same. So now go back to N. N is the final thing that you think about. If I'm compounding 4 times a year and I'm putting it in there for 6 years, how many times is it going to compound over that time?
24.
Good. You can do maths up there, right? Can you see I'm in N? I'm going to go 6 years times by compounding 4 times a year. See how it lets you work it out in that little variable part? Please use that ability. So I've put everything in from the question. It's asking how much will be in the account after 6 years. Can someone remind me how I solved for the remainder? What do I press? Alpha and? Well done. So, while you're waiting for me, while you're copying down, I'm going to type out what your working out should look like. So my answer for A would look like this. N24, I 3.45, PV, negative 23,000, PMT is nothing, star next to FV. It tells me $28,264.50, rounded to 2 decimal points. PY is 4. CY is 4. Oh, can't even press 4. Therefore, $28,264.50 in the account after 6 years. Please, I am asking you now, that is how you should answer these questions. Show the variables, put a star next to what you worked out, and an answer statement. B. So a couple of minutes to get that down. After the second example, I'll leave you alone for half an hour, so you can start trying the TVM, and then I'll do the second lesson. Okay, interest on investment. So you have the formula just above that I reminded you of. If I've made an investment, how much interest did I earn? Well, it grew up to this, $28,264.50. Minus, how much did I put into the bank in the first place? Yep, 23,000. Were there any regular payments made into this? Our situation here? No. You just put 20, so that's all it's going to be. So it's going to be, so how do I quit out of TVM Solver? Second quit, $28,264.50 minus 23,000. So if she did that, she would earn, the bank would give her $5,264.50. Just want to try example 2 before I shut my mouth finally. If you have a look at example 2, what is it asking me to find? Which of the variables in TVM Solver is the closest to time period, how long it takes? Yeah? N. See how here, N in example 1 was 24 quarters of a year, right? So I could divide that by 4 to work out how many years, it'd be 6. So in this case, I'd be star on N. I, what's the interest rate for Betty? Oh. What's the interest rate for Betty in example 2? Good, so you just put that, no conversion needed. PV. How much is she putting away in the bank? What sign would that be? Why? Yeah, it's going into the bank. Does it say anything about her making regular payments into the account? No, so PMT is going to be nothing. It tells you what it grows to. What does it grow to? What sign would that be? It's in the bank, yes, but it's coming to you at the end. So it's going to be 20,000. PY It doesn't say payments or anything, so it's going to be the same. How many half years are there in a year? 2. So CY is also going to be 2. Okay. Plug that into TVM. 3.8 negative 15 grand. It grows up to 20 grand. So she's trying to work out how long is it going to take her money to grow by 5 grand. How do I solve on TVM Solver? What do I press? Hit me with the alpha enter. So that tells me 15.28 to 2dp. So you could say, therefore, 15.28 half years. But is that what the question is asking you for? It wants it in years and months. So, initially, how many half years are there in a year? 2. So go 15.28 times divided by 2. Therefore, that's 7.64 years. You're still 1 mark away from full marks because you've told me it in years. How do I get the little hanging off bit into months? How many months are there in a year?
12.
Good. So how would I convert the 0.64 into months? Would I times or I divide? It's times. Because let's say it was 7.5 years. Half of a year is going to be 0.5 times by 12 will give you 6, right? If you divide it, it would be something else. So you could have working out here 0.64 times by 12 equals 0.64 times 12, 7.68. So that's closer to 8 months. Oh, why did the Apple just worked it out?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, Siri. Thanks, Siri. So 8 months. Therefore, 7 years and 8 months. That's how you deal with it. There's nothing else asked for there. So I'll stop the recording now. Can you please work on 7v.3 for 30 minutes just to get the hang of TVM Solver? If you're getting anything different to what I've shown you, this is the time to call me over. All right.